Tone Masters are designed to be a professional solution for the modern guitar player. We're the authority on how to deliver the sound of a Fender amp in the digital world because we're the authority on how to deliver a Fender amp sound in the tube world. The original Deluxe Reverb and Twin Reverb are almost perfect tools for doing almost any kind of guitar playing. Because those amps can be clean, they can be dirty, they can be bright, they can be bassy, they have a couple of great effects on them. You know, guitar players from all walks of life adopted those as the standard. A good electric guitar with a good tube amp is kind of like the complete system. It evolved into what we think of as great guitar tone. We started talking about doing the Tone Master series many years ago. It came from two basic things. One was we absolutely saw the trend towards lighter. We've seen a trend of modeling getting to the point where high-end professionals, they'll still tour with a high-end modeling solution, usually a rack mount or a floorboard, because it's so convenient. A lot of modern performance situations benefit from having a line out, benefit from playing quieter. So how would we combine the look and feel and sound of a traditional tube amp, but also offer some of those modern conveniences?
We wanted to make the amplifiers sound as accurate as we can to the iconic Twin Reverb and Deluxe Reverb. In order for us to do this, we needed to have all the processing power available. We're using a quad-core processor on the Tone Master, where one core by itself is more powerful than what we're using in the Mustang GT.
This is a big move. There's a ton of tradition here. We wanted to make sure we were going to do it right if we're going to do it. This amp has an unprecedented amount of CPU processing. We're using one of the cores just for the amp model. Two of the cores just for the reverb. It takes a lot of processing to do this.
With convolution, you can get the best reverb sound possible right now. The whole processing will cost you a lot compared even to the amp model. Doing a 12-second convolution reverb on one core is not possible. So we decided to split the reverb processing into two cores and then the remaining core for the capsim.
The capsims is what we're using on the lineouts. The capsims are based on impulse responses. So in order for us to capture the cabinet simulations, we actually went to a studio here in Phoenix and we took tons of measurements with different microphones of the cabinet with the Jensen speaker, and that's basically what's in there.
The capsims have 100 millisecond impulse responses that allow us to capture not only the character of the speaker and the resonance of the cabinet, but also just a hint of the room that really sweetens things up.
We thought tremolo was a really important thing. We actually brought 6 old blackface amps into the room and had the engineers with oscilloscopes and all the gear, all the tools. We had to kind of hone in on, I think, this range of rate and this range of depth and this waveform is representing, you know, the best of the vintage examples. I'm really glad we put the attenuator on the back. We have 6 different positions on the switch that you can use that output power control. You can put these amps on 10 and do your Santana or your Sex Pistols tones, but set it to any volume you want. You can go all the way down to apartment volume if you need to and still get that same sound.
Turning up a twin is quite an experience, but you don't want to do it for very long, and now you can hear these amps as if they were at volume, but not being at that volume.
One of the challenges was the speaker, and it made perfect sense for us to actually work with Jensen on this just because they're making the C12K that is in the reissue amp. One of the requirements was to make the amplifier lighter, so we knew that we couldn't go with a ceramic magnet, we had to go with a neodymium magnet. And what we ended up with, it's a lighter version of the C12K. It uses the same voice coil assembly, it uses the same spider, it uses the same dust cap, it uses a neodymium magnet versus a ceramic magnet, which makes it 4.4 pounds versus 9.5 pounds. But it has the same power handling and it has the same sensitivity as what's in the original reissue amplifier.
So in the spirit of making the amplifiers light, one of the things we did is choose to go with a solid pine finger jointed cabinet. We've done solid pine on a bunch of higher end amps over the years. The wood's more expensive, it's a little trickier for the guys to do the finger joining in the factory, but it sounds great and it's light. The same factory where we make the 68 reissues and the Hot Rod series amps is where the final assembly on the Tone Masters are. We wanted to do that because the vinyl, the grill cloth, the knobs, the hardware, the corners, the tilt back legs, everything looks exactly right. It looks exactly like the same stuff as the reissue because it is.
To do this right, you need to understand math and electronics, but you really need a sort of guru level tube expertise. In fact, the two guys that did the 65 Twin and Deluxe reissue amps, the guys whose names are on those schematics are right down the hall. They were our consultants for this project. Who better than the guys who did the original deep dive 20 years ago to guide us into this new era?
I was the project engineer in 1993, so it was really exciting for me to be involved. The guitar, which is an analog signal, goes into the inputs, and that first stage or two of the circuitry is an analog signal. It gets converted to digital, and then it's out of my hands, and the digital experts take it from there.
It's super important too. I mean, we've been trying to push for that so that knowledge is transferred from the analog guys to the digital guys so we can understand better how it works and then emulate it much better.
When they're finished with the digital side of things, it's back into the analog domain. So there's output circuitry that conditions the signal for the power amp and for the line output.
We just wanted to give the front end a lot of headroom to handle pedals really, really well, right? Because pedals are all over the place when it comes to, their output signals.
We tested these amps with all kinds of overdrive pedals, delay pedals. They respond the same way as if you had your pedal board in front of a 65 reissue Twin or Deluxe.
We're making products that have so many features and are so amazing at the price points these days. I always say it's a good time to be alive.
I like tube amps. I love the simplicity of them. I love that we're using DSP technology to do simple things great. These amps sound and feel like they're tube versions.
If you want tone from a modeling amp that has 200 presets, if you want tone from a high-end amp like the Tone Masters that has no presets but you're using all the processing power to get a great amp sound, or if you still want to buy the tube amps, we're still making those. We have the kind of cross-pollinated knowledge to be able to do all of this.
We take a lot of pride in the work that we do. Going to a music store and seeing an amp that you were a big part of, that's priceless.